We're recording. We're live on Facebook. Hello, Ed. Hello, Charles.
Hello there, Julie.
Hello, Julie.
How are you both doing this evening? Ed, how are you?
I'm outstanding. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. And you're calling in from right here in San Diego, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. I'm on top of the hill from you, from La Jolla. Yeah.
Not
Overlooking Warwick.
Not a bad place to have a little view from.
That's
and
right.
Charles, you are from San Diego, but right now, where are you calling in from?
I have the privilege of being back here in Durham, North Carolina. Go Duke Blue Devils.
There you go. So we've got, even though we have some great San Diegans sitting here with us, we're covering both the coasts. So maybe we've got some people joining us from both the coasts or somewhere in between. So
I think we do, Julie.
Good.
I think we do.
Just in case, you two are very familiar with Warwick's, but I'm going to chat a little bit about Warwick's for people that might not know. My little sign there says since 1896. We're actually celebrating our 125th anniversary this year. Ed, if you're not doing anything on Sunday, we're having an open house. Come on down and say hi and drink a little champagne. We're doing a toast actually for the 125th at 1:25 p.m. We're going to do.
Wow. That's great.
We're going to do a toast. So we're located in La Jolla, San Diego, California. And while we're not the oldest bookstore in the country, we're the oldest continuously family owned. Nancy's the 4th generation owner. And so, yeah, it's a great place. If you're in the San Diego area, tonight, in the comment section, I'm going to be putting Ed's book. So you can click on that easily. I always like to say any way there is to get a book, you can get it from Warwick. So if you're not in the San Diego area, you can click on that, and we actually ship books. Independent bookstores ship books. Some people don't realize that. You can have it shipped to you, but if you're in the area and you want to come by and pick it up, you can choose that option as well. Also in the chat area, we are recording this, so it's going to end up on our YouTube channel as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is not live, but if you're on Facebook with us tonight, in the comment section, we love to have questions. So if you have any questions or you think of anything to ask, even while Ed and Charles, they're going to talk for about 30 minutes, but got some questions, go ahead and pop those in the comment section, and I'll pop those into Charles, and he will ask those as they're coming in to Ed. So I think I've given Facebook enough time to kind of let people know that we're live and we're here. So I will do my duty and introduce you to, and then pop off the screen. So Brian Iron Ed Hiner is a decorated Navy SEAL veteran officer with more than 20 years of distinguished service. He is among the most experienced trainers in SEAL history, having trained and qualified thousands of Navy SEALs as a Navy Special Warfare Training Officer. The recipient of 2 Bronze Stars with V for Valor in Combat, he is featured in Ken Blanchard's Leading at a Higher Level and Dick Couch's Sheriff of Ramadi. Ed received his undergraduate degree from Virginia Commonwealth University and graduated from Officers Candidate School with honors. He holds a master's degree in executive leadership from the University of San Diego. He is also a leadership consultant and author of the Los Angeles Times bestseller, First, Fast, Fearless. He's here tonight to talk to us about guts, greatness under tremendous stress, a Navy SEAL system for turning fear into accomplishment. Joining him is Charles Parisi. I didn't ask you earlier, Charles, how am I saying your name right? Parisi?
Parisi's perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Charles has over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience, having successfully launched, funded, and exited multiple startup companies. His experience in marketing, sales, and distribution in industries ranging from consumer packaged goods and nutritional supplements to financial services and nonprofits has been marked by creativity, discipline, and engaged enthusiasm, resulting in well over $1 billion in sales in his various endeavors, many of which represented first-to-market products and distribution strategies. He's currently the CEO of Cloudcast Media, as well as the co-founder of Asymmetrical Evolution, the developers of the SEALpreneurship program. That was hard for me to do for high school students. Ed and Charles have a great conversation. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you.
Julie, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, visit Warwick's often. Fantastic member of the community. Julie, thank you so much for everything you do in Warwick's. Ed, great to be here with you tonight, my friend.
As always, man.
Let's do it again.
Here we are, human.
Let's do it again. We've done this before, and it's always great to see you. And first and foremost, let me start by saying thank you and your family for your service to our country and your service to my family. God bless. I appreciate that. And I think we all do. Thank you. And everyone heard your bio, so I'm going to hit it again really fast. 20-year Navy SEAL, obviously legendary. You've been on the History Channel, best-selling author of 2 different books. But I think what's also I want to point out as well is husband, father, great friend. And those are really, really important roles.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything that you do. But let's start with something a little personal, because we've heard the bio, we know everything you've done. Share with our audience first something about Ed Hiner that we don't know. Like maybe you always wanted to perform in a heavy metal band. Tell us something about you that we don't know.
Oh, you got to ambush me. Let's see. What would that be? Here's a little bit of a secret. Now people that know me may know this, but people that don't know me that well might not know it. My secret desire now, you guys got to help me with this, is actually to get on Dancing with Stars.
Yeah, that's your, so, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I want to get
so-
on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, I know when I'm in my office by myself, I have the moves. So I think I could portray those on stage. But yeah, my wife and I love Dancing with the Stars. It's a wonderful show, and I can't dance at all. So I figure, I'd get the best participation trophy if you would, for being there.
But to your knowledge, would you be the first SEAL on Dancing with the Stars?
Yes, I would. There've been some veterans. There's been some other vets, but yeah, I'd be the first Dancing with the Stars Navy SEAL.
Nice. Well, listen, I know accountability is one of your day-to-day words that you live, you breathe, you eat, you sleep, accountability. So we're going to all hold you accountable and see that you start making the steps to get on Dancing with the Stars at some point in the future. Maybe we'll come back to that later. Ed, let me, because you've written a couple of books, First, Fast, Fearless, and the new book from McGraw-Hill is Guts, both available at Warwick's, fantastic bookstore right there in La Jolla. Question for you is, do you write these books to learn about yourself as well as to inform others?
Yeah, you actually do. It's like, it's almost, and I'm not a natural writer, because people are like, oh my God, you just must be a natural writer. Not really. I wouldn't ever consider myself a natural writer. I think all of us are writers. It's almost like spelunking, going into caves and deep. And the longer you're on that keyboard, the longer you're in these thoughts, the deeper you get, and the more like little nuggets of wisdom and thoughts that you didn't even know you had in you actually start to come out. So it's almost like mining for gold. And I try to write Guts like that, where there's a nugget, at least a nugget on each page that people can pull from and go, okay, I can use that nugget. So it's like that. It's like you just dig into your mind and find out what you really know. And by putting it on paper, and that's one of the things that we teach, is putting it on paper actually changes your success rate significantly, right?
So by taking that action. But let's talk about Guts for a second, because obviously you probably had no idea how impeccable your timing would be, having coming out of a 2-year, very stressful time in America. How did you come up with the idea for Guts? And what do you think about the timing of bringing this book to market now in the midst of where America is?
Well, it's twofold, right? I mean, it's perfect for the time right now, but it's not so perfect because people weren't going to bookstores. That's right. They were just doing online stuff. But, book was finished. I finished the book before it went into the editing process with McGraw-Hill. I finished it in the pandemic. So I actually pulled it back from McGraw-Hill and put a couple references to COVID in there, because it was almost like I had this crystal ball and all the things I was writing about and talking about, because fear is fear, right? I deal with fear in Guts. And it was unfolding in front of our face, and it was like, wow. So McGraw-Hill agreed. They brought it back, put a couple things of COVID in there, because you could just see the fear taking over everyone's life. And I'm not saying there wasn't some legitimate fears, but it was overwhelming in some sense.
Well, you talk about, I've heard you talk many, many times, including with the program you've built for high school students. You talk about fear and stress are actually essential for personal growth, but yet you hear so many, there's books written on living a stress-free life and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You talk about embracing it because it actually is the component of your growth. Why don't you discuss that for a few minutes with the audience?
Well, fear is, it's in there. I talk about this a lot. It's either it's a gift and it's a curse, right? Too much of it is bad. Too little of it's bad. So you kind of have to find your own sweet spot. And to have the expectations of having no fear, no anxiety, no stress, none of those things in your life, really, one, it would be an extremely boring life. Two, you wouldn't really be able to focus on anything. The sweet spot, and we talk to kids about this a lot, is the sweet spot is you don't want to eliminate all the fear in your life. You want, because fear creates your focus. When you, for instance, if you walk outside, you see a lion standing in your yard, your fear turns that into focus very quickly. And so obviously you don't want that lion in your yard, but just having enough anxiety, putting yourself out there, stretching your limits, and it's an inoculation process, right? You don't want to stretch your limits overnight, but you want to constantly stress your limits and build on those successes. So yeah, fear is a great thing. It's a gift and it's a curse.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So let's go back to writing Guts, because I'm assuming you had your own fear and trepidation from both of your books, from the first book, First Fast Fearless, and then the second book, Fear, Stress, you turned it into personal accomplishment. What is that process? What do you talk about in Guts about that process from taking fear and stress and turning it into achievement?
Yeah, one of the first thing is I want to set the stage, but how I approach it. And I call myself, and you know this very well, the blue collar scholar, right? The approach to things, I'm not outsourcing my life to doctors, to teachers, to people with big certificates on their wall, is to take ownership of your own life, of yourself, right? So when I was writing Guts, and that's, obviously I had fears of it. Am I going to sound stupid? Is this going to be a ridiculous project? Because I was working on another project with McGraw-Hill, but I stopped and I thought this would be the perfect book because of just some of the things that's going on in my personal life. But I take it from the very beginning of accountability. What is that? Accountability is ownership of the outcome, right? When the outcome happens to you. So I take it, start at accountability, and we have a building process, how to create discipline. Right? There's a lot of people out there, you hear it constantly, you need discipline to be successful. Well, if I don't have discipline, how do I get some of that? Right? That's the question. How do I get it? And I teach people how to actually manufacture that, how to manufacture motivation, how to manufacture discipline, small steps. And we use a little neuroscience in there, but it's how to do it. That's why the blue collar scholars approach is perfect, I think, is take all the information you get, mix it up in your own brain and see what works for you, discard what doesn't, and then move on. So you're a scientist in your own life. And I think we all are. That's why, we talk about, and as we go further in that, is the PhD in me type thing. That's what you always want. That's what people should be looking to receive, is how to master themselves as best they can.
Well, I was going to ask you about the PhD in me, which I know is the hallmark of that education program you've built, which is, but make the case that the most important degree someone needs is a PhD in themselves. Make that case.
Well, it starts with the foundation, right? If you have a weak foundation, or like in a vehicle, and I talk about in Guts, if you have a chassis that is weak, the foundation of something, then no matter all the trinkets you can put on it, it's still going to be weak. And you can have, and we work with kids and a lot, and the program is called Sealpreneurship that we do, is without the foundation of self-ownership, of understanding yourself and how to motivate yourself, how to discipline yourself, how to accomplish, then all the education in the world is going to be useless to you. If you cannot stand up to certain amounts of pressure in life and learn how to deal with that and transfer that into actual action, then it doesn't matter. You can have degrees, you can have all kinds of things, but you're not going to be successful in the way you want to be, and you're not going to be as happy and thrive in the way you want to be.
You mentioned a couple of really important words there, motivation and discipline. Let's talk motivation, extrinsic, intrinsic, external nudge or something at your core. Talk about those for a little bit, and how do you address those in Guts?
Well, I talk in the Guts about one, extrinsic motivation. And if you look in the SEAL teams, one of the key functions that we do, and it's sometimes we even forget we do it, is we have a life of others focused. I talk about a swim buddy concept in there, right? Swim buddy meaning you're always having someone with you, and you and that other person are both accountable 100% for the success of what you're doing, but you're also focusing on other people. When you focus on other people, not yourself, then that relieves stress in itself. That is a way of accomplishing, because it drives and motivates you. It drives us in combat. I mean, some of the worst and most dangerous situations you find yourself in, or could find yourself in, you can alleviate that stress is when you're in charge, or you're focusing on others. You're looking after your teammates. So that extrinsic kind of motivation there.
On that note, in terms of, thinking about others,
Yeah.
I'd like you to share with our audience one of the stories that is so impactful I've heard you tell about that helicopter ride.
Yeah. Well, how many minutes do I have?
You
I
got a
know
few
the color.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think it goes down to that motivation of that
Yeah.
thinking of others that you're
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell a quick story of it, about a minute or two. I found myself in 2005. I just came back, and I'd been in combat in 2004 when we invaded Iraq, and I've been there. And I was taking over a unit in 2005, a unit that I just gotten transferred overseas to this unit on the East Coast, the SEAL team. And when I got there, we had to leave. It was kind of a surge thing. We didn't really know what the mission was. Iraq at the time was transitioning, and there was this place called Ramadi, Iraq. And Ramadi was the hellhole of the country at the time, the biggest fight. Fallujah had already went down in 2004. And now Ramadi was the last kind of push to the west. So we were sent out there without a mission statement, which it sounds absurd, but it is kind of absurd, is to kind of hit the ground and figure it out. So we were there to hunt bad guys, and we're also there to build an army, right? To build national defense inside the nation with the Iraqis. And I just found myself one night, when I first got there. See, I didn't get a chance to work up with these guys. I didn't get a chance to know them. They didn't get a chance to know me, which was probably awful for them. So I just took over. I was actually the first SEAL in history to be spot promoted on the spot for combat. And so I was excited, but at the same time, extremely nervous, because I was sitting in the desk today in June 28th, 2005. If people have seen the Lone Survivor movie or read the book, when that all went down, one of my good friends, I was in a platoon with him, worked with him, and deployed with him, lived with him for a while. Eric Christensen was the commander on that helicopter that got shot down and killed. And I had the sad duty of taking his stuff out of the desk and giving it to the officers that were going to take it to his family. So the stress level is high. We get out there on one of our first missions. It happens to be a big one. An Al-Qaeda overseas foreign fighter coming in. We'd been hunting him for a couple of years. He was a pretty bad fella. And there was a tank burning down the street. You couldn't get in by vehicle. You couldn't patrol in. He had snipers and overwatches. So we were going to fly in just on top of the compound and get after it. And in the back of that helicopter, I found myself just focused on myself, right? And worried, nervous. This is my first big mission with these guys, and I felt as if I was about to throw up at any moment. And then I was focused mainly just on me, and I'm plugged in, listening to the helicopters. The helicopters are going through their checks and balances. Hey, wow, this, we have this, and then he come over and he said, Red Bull Actual, that was me, as the commander, said, hey, you have 24 souls on board, 7 minutes to target's wheels up. That moment, that pilot, I don't know his name, but I wish I did. That one word shifted my focus from me focused to others focused. He said souls. He didn't say passengers, packs, SEALs, any of that nonsense. He said souls, and it just triggered me. And I still, today, when I think about that, it hits me. The magnitude of that position at that time, of all the people came out of me, understanding all my training, everything I'd ever done, is that I was there to be their leader. A lot of people, not many people would have even been in that situation. Only a handful qualified, and I was chosen. So it was such an honor. And that moment just shifted me from inside myself, where it's been petrified, to just exhilarated. Emotional ecstasy is all I can call it. It was a very good lesson to me, which I use now as a mom model: mission, others, me. If you're making decisions in your life, focus on the mission, focus on others, and lastly, focus on me.
So in that case, you found your focus in a very stressful situation.
I did.
So let's talk about day-to-day, because greatness under tremendous stress, the acronym for your book is GUTS. We're in a very stressful world these days. The last couple of years have been really unprecedented in a million different ways. So your day-to-day life, some of the lessons you've learned about managing stress, How are you applying those in your day-to-day life? Because I have a hunch they'll be very important, to the folks that are listening.
Well,
What
when I started writing Guts, I just went back to the things I used to do really well, right? What made me happy, what stuck with me. Um, and for people that are dealing with any kind of stress, we know this intuitively, we've heard a lot of it, but we really haven't put it together. And I take care of that chassis, right? We eat well, we sleep, we get physical exercise, and we get in a physical environment. See, I have a principle in there we talk about: twist the body to mold the mind, right? So how do you use your body to actually change your mindset? Because normally it's the other way around, right? You think thoughts and you go, well, I'm motivated. You get generated, motivated, and then you do something. I'm talking, show them there's a other pathway that you can actually use your body to manufacture motivation within you and create that motivation that you need.
Well, let me back up and then,
Yeah.
what is stress? Let's walk through, because you mentioned neurochemistry, you mentioned a few different things. What is stress to you, and what is the connection between moving the body to move the mind? What's the connection between that and your own biochemistry?
Well, fear, right? I mean, fear is stress, stress is fear. And we have that when you're under stress or fear, I just call it fear, there's different levels of it, but it's just a constant cortisol drip, right? That stress hormone that's dripping in your body. The body, when you get in a fearful state, either your project's due, or you're late for work, or a lion's chasing you, the same physical reactions happen to your body. And your body, the natural response is, right? We know that's you freeze first, it's fight or flight. The natural response for the body is to move. The more stress, the more you move. So if you move and run or do exercise and do different things, use your body, you actually eliminate a lot of that stress. So that's fear. Fear, everyone has it. It's just, how do you manage it?
Right. So the key here, I think, for our listeners, and what folks will learn from your book is, it's not about living a stress-free life. It's living a life free of the impact of stress as much as possible. Is that stating it accurately?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we there's a sweet spot for it that keeps us focused, keeps us driven. I mean, think about it. If you didn't have any stress, life would be awful. I mean, it really would. If there was you're not pushing your limits in some way, then it would be awful life. And I think that's important. Most people don't understand that. It's like, no, you need that little bit of anxiety, that stress, that fear to get you to move.
Mm-hmm. And you're one of the Navy SEALs that created their ethos. And I've heard you talk about this personal growth curve: ethos, evolution, excellence. Tell us about ethos and how you evolve to personal excellence. Make the connection. What is ethos? How did you handle that? How did you do with the SEALs in constructing an ethos, and bring that home for us?
Yeah, it was 2005 when the SEAL teams, we did a bunch of studies inside the SEAL team. And you can imagine by this time, 4 years of war, there's 3 wars going on at the time. Most people don't know that. There's Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Philippines. We're fighting actively or advising in the Philippines. So our stress level, the deployment level was just rotating constantly. And when you're under that kind of stress, you find out where the seams are, right? You find out the break points. And we started to see some break points. And as an organization, we gathered data for about 6 months. We had some statisticians and some smart people gather data and took that data. And if you're here in San Diego, right off the coast here, about 75 miles is an island northwest of here called San Clemente Island. Most of that, half that island we own. In SEAL teams, we do a lot of explosive work and stuff there. Well, we flew about 55 people out there to come together and create a one-page document, a constitution, if you will, but we call it an ethos, a character statement saying, who are we as SEALs? And it sounds easy, but it's not. And we had a lot of disagreements, and there were people disagreeing and what is a Navy SEAL? What is a Navy SEAL not? So just the definition, by defining it and hashing out those individual little words, was very important to our organization to map out and to draw a picture, a mental picture of what it means to be a Navy SEAL. And that was important. And I think we do exercises with our kids. And that's one of the most powerful exercises when people really think about who they are, who they aspire to be, not just who they think they are right at this moment, but who do they want to be?
Yeah,
And
because if you already are your ethos, you haven't set your own personal growth targets. Is that accurate?
yeah, you need to reset them and move the chains a little bit, right? Give yourself another a point down the road to improve to. Because evolution, you talked about evolution. That's how you evolve to excellence. You constantly, and for the listeners, everything we do in the SEAL teams, shooting, jumping, diving, whatever it is, small, large, we call it an evolution. And the fact is that language puts in our mind that we're always evolving. And part of our ethos states that, our training is never complete. And that's a good way to look at life. I'm never there, right? I'm always evolving, always pushing that limit.
Well, when I hear you mention language, I can't move past that without asking you to share with the audience how much you emphasize that language matters on your personal evolution and your personal excellence. Talk to us about how the language that you use in the SEAL teams, and you can feel free to clean it up.
I'll clean it up. Thank you. I appreciate you getting that first strike in. No, yeah. Well, language is very important, and when a student first comes here to San Diego to BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. And a lot of instructors didn't even know this at the time, but one of the things you do is you control their language, right? And controlling their language, you control their thought process, you control their emotions, and you control their actions. In the language, for instance, for accountability, we want to teach people to break the excuses, right? Because an excuse is tied to failures. And when people use excuses, it feels good, all those things. Yeah, it feels wonderful. It does you no good. And for us, the mission doesn't care. We're a no fail mission at times. So we don't care about your excuses. History doesn't care about your excuses. America doesn't care about your excuses. So one of the first things we do with students is we control their language, and to teach them accountability, and to separate them from their excuses and to change your beliefs, when we say, hey, did you accomplish the mission? Whatever it is, we give them, hey, whatever the job. There's two responses, yes and no. And then there's one excuse, and I'll clean it up. I messed up. And it sounds cruel because we overtask them to make them constantly fail. And then when they fail, they become innovative, and they learn to prioritize, and they learn to not go back to that default of making excuses for themselves. We know it in our lives. Listen to people, they just constantly make excuses instead of, and that marries them with that excuse, and that marries them with that failure. And that's how we start to break it. Just by simple use of language. And then about 6 weeks into the training, the students get it. They understand that we don't care about their excuses, and they will be very creative on solving their problems.
Yeah. Well, let us learn through you a little bit in terms of some of these principles. So what are you currently afraid of? And what are you working on? What's stressing Ed Hiner? What are you afraid of? What's next for you that you want to accomplish on your personal growth curve?
Dancing with the Stars.
Besides that one, we're going to come back to that one.
Look,
what has Ed Hiner afraid today in a different kind of battlefield?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different things. Emotional, expressing emotions used to be a very difficult thing for me. And as I speak on stage professionally now, that was one of my biggest obstacles that I said, I have to overcome that. I cannot be a robot on stage. Mm-hmm. And to be on stage, to be, vulnerable, was the word, the cliche word of the world, but to be vulnerable and just to really be yourself. Mm-hmm. And that was really tough. I lived in the shadows most of my life. My neighbors and most of the place I lived, they had no idea I was a SEAL. I didn't care to tell them. So to come out of that shadow and to really express yourself and to do that, that's been tough. But I just did a speaking gig almost 2 weeks ago, live in person for the first time since COVID. And there was like 700-800 people maybe. And it was a huge success. I loved it. I kind of found that sweet spot. So.
I know you've launched this education company for high school students, and I know you're working with UCSD and a variety of, and Lennar, the largest home building company in the country. So how afraid were you to get in front of students for the first time?
This sounds strange to probably people, but it was very nerve-wracking. It was, it's because I'd never taught before. I'd never been in front of kids. I don't know, I'm used to adults. I'm used to having a uniform on. I'm used to telling people what to do, whatever. But yeah, to be in front of kids, and we worked with the foster courts and juvenile kids Spa Academy, which is San Pasqual Academy in Escondido, California. It's a foster youth academy, and I hope some of them are watching. It's a wonderful school. I was nervous. I was scared, man. I'll go home and I'll be exhausted after the day, 3 or 4 hours in front of the classroom, because how do kids respond? I don't know. It was something unique to me, and hopefully I'm getting better at it. The kids will tell me, I'm sure, next time they see me. But yeah, that was good.
But it sounds like just like your SEAL training, you got to get out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah. You do the same skills, the same way you talk to yourself. And I talk a lot in Guts about, you have to look at yourself almost in the third person out there talking to you, coaching yourself. How do I do that? Because language creates thoughts, right? Thoughts create emotions and actions and all those things. It's a reaction, and it actually creates your belief system. Because what happens inside your mind creates these repetitions as if you're actually doing it. So if you're constantly thinking you're horrible, you suck, and blah, 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 then that will create a belief that you do suck. And you don't even know. You may not even know. You may not come out of your shell and know that. But
hey, Ed, we have a great question. It's right up your alley. We have a question from Gail Brooks. So Gail, thank you for joining us tonight. And the question is, how would you suggest going about writing a personal mission statement or an ethos? How would you recommend that Gail get started on that?
Well, that's a good question. One, read the book. That's one way to do it.
And that book is available at Warwick's.
That's right. Get the book from Warwick's and read it. Well, I think it's a good idea to understand, just to set with yourself and write down the things that you aspire to be, who you want to be, right? No one I've ever met, no one has ever went through this drill. And obviously this can take 3 days, 3 months, 6 months. We go through a long process of it, but write down the things that people that inspire you, love, caring, trust. What are the things that you aspire to be the best at in your life? And then start to just work on it.
I would say I would add to that. When we've had the privilege of working with some students together on their ethos, Gail, one of the things we ask the students to think about is project yourself into the future, visualize yourself 40 years from now, let's say, Gail, getting a lifetime achievement award. And what is it they're saying about you, that whether your successful career, you're married, your children, there's grandchildren, you did this, you did that, as if you're getting that lifetime achievement award. And now you have essentially the aspirational blueprint for everything that Gail Brooks can become. So Ed, maybe you have something to add to that.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. It gets yourself first in the emotional state that you want to be in. And I think that's an important thing. Be happy, watch videos, whatever's going to make you happy, inspirational videos, and get yourself in that state of mind and let your moral curiosity run free, if you would.
Yeah. Ed, you've a question for you with respect to the Dancing with the Stars. What are you? No, I want everyone to really get a feel for who you are, because I know you as a man who's constantly working on yourself. That blue collar scholar mindset, you're calling me all the time with some crazy new thing you're trying, whether it's physical, mental, and I love that about you. Constantly tinkering, which is one of your words. So what's your next step in Dancing with the Stars? We want to hold you accountable. Maybe we'll have you, maybe Warwick's will have you back in 3 months and see how you're doing.
Well, famous. You got to be famous to be there, which I'm working on that. I'm pitching a documentary, a couple of other things, but you have to have a certain level of fame, right? And yeah, I'm working on those things. Not that I want the fame, but I want to be on the Dancing with the Stars and just see.
Well, I happen to know that. Yeah, I happen to know Wendy's a great dancer. We may have to nudge her to get you going here.
Well, that's different. Yeah. Yeah, she'll do it.
By the way, Gail just let us know that she has read the book and loved it. So Gail, thank you so much. And Gail, we're going to suggest you loved it so much, you should pick up another copy at Warwick's and donate it to your local high school or a local library, which is, by the way, one of the things we really want to see more and more high schools have this book in some way, shape, or form. So that's one of the things we can all do together. So Gail, if you loved it, let's do that. And in fact, we're getting a suggestion from Julie at Warwick's. Ed, that maybe the pre-taping of the show can take place right there at the store in La Jolla.
Hey, there you have it. There they have it.
So, I have a question here. It's from Cornell Richards, which is body-mind connection. Move the body, move the mind. The question is, how do you essentially get that focus and the first step needed to move the body?
A good question. That's the important part, right? Everybody can yell at you, but to get off that couch, that's, you set those goals. Look, when I set goals to write, I don't set goals to write a book. I don't set goals to, you know, that. To me, my goal when I'm writing and doing it is to get right here in front of this computer with my fingers on that keyboard. Whatever happens, happens. Set that goal, right? To get there, not to, well, I'm gonna go to the gym and work out for an hour. No, that's too overwhelming. Get up, get a certain time, set goals, and you have, we call it, in the SEAL team, pays to be a winner, right? Small successes over time builds habits. Those small successes, get up, get my stuff ready, just getting to the gym, right? For instance, if someone wants to get in shape and say, how do I, just say to yourself, focus on the actual getting to the gym. The rest takes care of itself. I mean, you may not go to the gym and just walk home. You're like, oh, I'm done. But it's very rare. Once you get there, it's a step. It's like me, when I get in front of the computer, things just start to happen because I'm here and I got myself to it. I think Woody Allen said, what is it? You know, the comedian, 90% of life is just showing up. And in some sense, that has a lot to do with it, because just being there will trigger you to get going.
Well, and let me drop another question there as a follow-up to Cornell's question, which is, and this is going to take us all the way back to your the SEAL training and what you mandate with all these SEALs, which is find a swim buddy. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
you know,
that's one of the key things that ironically, when I wrote that, a gentleman that wrote a book called How to Deliver a TED Talk. He was a best-selling author, whatnot, president or vice president of a large company. He sent me this email and he said, look, don't even read my book. Here's your TED Talk, Swim Buddies. And he read about that and he thought about it. I'm like, I didn't realize the impact it would have on people when they first read it. I'm like, wow, it's not a new concept, but it's a concept if you really use it and force yourself to find that person in your life, whatever it is, if it's working out or it's at work, it's at home or whatever it is to force yourself to find someone else. Because when we're together as human beings, one, we're supposed to be together. We're not supposed to be isolated. We've seen that in COVID. As you're smarter, stronger, you're more courageous. You know, as SEAL, people are like, why? How do you jump out of a plane at 30,000 feet with 200 pounds of equipment at night, and 40 below zero? It's like, because the guy in front of me did, right? Because you have that connection, you have that bond, and there's all kinds of things that happens. You'll read about in there that, certain things like the observation effect, what happens when someone's watching you, what happens to you, what happens to them, and use that to your advantage. Even the best, I talked about one of my childhood heroes was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger picked his lifting partner, his swim buddy, very carefully. Franco Columbu was smaller, about 30, 40 pounds smaller and stronger, and worked harder than Arnold. And he knew it. And he picked him as his swim buddy. And obviously we know what happened. Arnold became the best bodybuilder in the world. And so did Franco. Franco became very good.
Yeah, no question about it. Ed, have another question here from Dan in Escondido. Question is, what made you decide to start an education company working with youth?
Well, that would take a long time to fully explain it, but to me, it was a promise I made overseas in combat. I think one of the hardest things you're going to see, most veterans would tell you that have been in combat, is that you see kids get hurt. You see they're suffering. You don't just hear about it on the news. You see it very close and up front, and it's horrific. And I guess we make a lot of promises, especially in combat. But I just said I'm going to do something about that when I get out, when I move on in my life. That is going to be something I'm going to do. And 2.5 years ago, we started doing it. So I just made a promise, and I got to keep it.
Well, I'm glad that you are doing that, because I know there's students that can and will benefit from that program. So Ed, I know it's about 9:40. We're probably going to be wrapping up pretty pretty soon. But hey, we have another comment here.
Bring it.
No, it's great. And that the idea of donating a book to school, Cindy mentioned that. What a great idea. And she loved that you said small successes over time builds habits. So, thanks for pointing it out. And Cindy, thank you for pointing that out in the comments here. So Ed, you mentioned a few things earlier, and so final tips for the audience before maybe more questions come in. If they're trying to improve themselves, or how do people work on themselves? What you must have some acronym that you run your life by.
Well, we love acronyms, right? The military people love acronyms, but there's tons of them in the book. We could even talk about self, right? You sleep, you got to sleep well. You have to be deliberate about it, offensive, not on the defense. You have to actually take care of it. You have to eat well. We all know it, but what does that mean, right? I mean, but you actually have to do it. You have to learn. I think it's one of the strongest things, especially all of us, no matter if we're 16 or 60, is to continuously learn something. And to not only does it keep your brain functioning well, but it makes you grow as a human being, and it makes you be able to contribute back to other people. And then fitness. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't care about your religious beliefs, but if God gave you this body, if you're born with this body, it's up to us to take care of it. And that body is what transports us around this world to be able to experience the world and do the things we want to do and are here to do. So
does the fitness also apply to not just physical fitness, but mental, emotional?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. Should have obviously pointed out the obvious on it, but yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, mental fitness, and you'll read a lot about it, and got some really how to control that noodle, how to build those neural pathways, and how to do it. And it's not difficult. It's really kind of like hitting the easy button in a lot of sense. You do these steps, these things will happen. And yeah, you got to take care of your mind. You got to.
I love that, actually. And I figure you probably had an acronym. So sleep, I wrote it, sleep, eat, learn, and really commit to lifelong learning is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then fitness, emotional, physical health. So it spells the word self. So that's a great way to kind of, in some sense, wrap up everything with the Cliff Notes version of that's in your book, which is available at Warwick's in La Jolla.
That's right.
And the finest independent bookstore in San Diego, Julie. And I do mean that.
Thank you.
So Ed, thank you for everything you've done. And I can't wait to see what your next book is going to cover.
Me too.
Might be a surprise to you too, huh, Ed?
No, actually, I got it. I have it right now. I'm already working on it.
And I love that you keep putting out Dancing with the Stars. You got to keep putting it out in the universe because it's gonna happen. You just keep putting it out there.
It's got to go.
It's got to go. And I mean, no, we've actually had flamenco dancers at the store. I wasn't kidding about doing the pre-taping at the store, mind you.
Hey, bring it. I'll be there.
Bring it. Come on. We can move those tables out. Might not have a disco ball though. That might be it.
I'll bring mine.
There you go. There you go. And it's always great having you. Charles, it was nice meeting you. I can't believe we've been in San Diego and this is our first time meeting.
Pleasure. But I look forward to seeing you because we're going to do some great work on literacy together.
Yes, we are. And San Diego, look out because it's coming. And Ed will bring you along on that too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you both have websites where, Ed, do you have a website that you like to direct people to go to?
Yeah, edhiner.com. Okay. It's pretty simple. You can go, if you want to email me, just ed.hiner at hiner.com.
Okay. Yeah. And that's got all your like socials and stuff is on all your like the links to like all your social media and stuff there.
Yep. Perfect. I'm not a big social media fan, but I'm trying to, I'm working on that.
Yeah, well, if you give out your email, that means you actually answer them. So sometimes that's better.
I will answer them.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah. I love answering.
Charles, do you have someplace you want to?
I do. Mike, no one needs to reach me, but I'm happy to always chat. Cloudcast.us is the website. You can just Charles at cloudcast.us. I absolutely answer all my own emails. Perfect.
And we do have another. I don't even know if we should put out the website yet, Charles, because it's just getting.
We're going to be unveiling it, I think, January 1. That's right.
It's coming out. We'll keep. If they come to my website, it'll be on that website. You'll see it. Come out. It's going to be incredible. It's our kid program. We're working with all the foster youth, juveniles, sports, every kid, all the stuff that we do for kids, and we're launching it. So we put it all together, and it's coming out.
You guys doing a nonprofit or something or anything?
No, we're for profit right now.
Okay.
Well,
We
right
work
now,
with-
we're just really busting
Work
our
with, yeah,
hump.
all the different organizations and stuff. Yeah, awesome.
But Julie, I have to say, listen, thank you so much.
Oh.
125 years, happy birthday.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful time at your event,
Yes.
this weekend with 125
Yeah.
people. I believe.
125, think of us, we'll be toasting with some champagne there.
I'll be
Thank
coming
you
down.
thank you for everything you do for San Diego. God
Absolutely.
bless.
Hey, you guys too. Thank you. And good night, everybody. This
Good
will be
night.
on
Thanks,
YouTube
everyone,
and
for
it
showing
stays
up.
on Facebook, so you guys can all see it later. Good
Thanks.
night.
Bye-bye now.